Hello, and welcome to the Curious Artist Podcast. This is a show for artists and art lovers where I interview a diverse group of artists in order to get at the deep questions of the art world. In this episode, I interview Anja, NotAnja Seiger, otherwise known as La Prosette. As an interdisciplinary artist, she uses many mediums such as typewritten poetry, performance art, community collaboration, paper cutting, drawing, crochet, and sound to mirror life. In all her work, improvisation is the uniting force, for it is the split second that interests her most. What wisdom arises to the surface when time is shoved to the side by instinct? Each day, as she creates without preliminary sketches or goals, she conveys the precise essence of the present moment. Common themes explored in her work are the spirit world, the animal psyche, the feral feminine, the unknown, facing fear, mortality, and forging a humorous rebellion against the unacknowledged minutiae of daily life. So tell me about yourself, your background, what you do, and what brings you up to this point.
So I am an interdisciplinary artist. I work in many different mediums. The one unifying force in all of my art making is that of improv. I am not medium specific otherwise, but I do have tendencies to work in illustration, paper cutting, poetry, typewriter, performance art, and anything.
That's
and
cool.
Then I have a background in that I received my BFA from the Kansas City Art Institute in '09, and I studied printmaking and creative writing, but I also focused a lot on costume making, film and video, and puppetry.
So can you tell me a little bit more about going to school and what that was like?
Sure. Well, when I was 18, I wanted to get as far away from my upbringing of Milwaukee as possible. I felt I needed to individuate myself. And so I went to a city I never heard of before, Kansas City, which happens to be in Missouri, not
really?
Kansas. Yep. And it turned out, I'd never heard of this place, but they have like one of the top 10 art cities in America.
Wow.
And like every Friday, every Friday once a month, like first Friday of the month, everybody, like the whole town would show up to see art. Like ordinary people, like not arty looking people, like the whole town would just swarm the galleries. It was remarkable.
That's cool. How big was the town?
It's a little bit smaller than Milwaukee. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's a big metropolitan city.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What was it like going to school away from Milwaukee, and what have you brought back to Milwaukee from that?
Well, I think I'm inevitably influenced by the spirit of Kansas City. Like each city has its own frequency that it emits, and I would say, for example, many of the listeners live in Milwaukee. Like I'd say the frequency of Milwaukee is very strong in filmmaking and surrealism and graphic design. And I'd say like the frequency in Kansas City is a lot more wild. I'd say there's a lot of very experimental painting going on down there, lots of installation, and people do very strange things there. Like there's like a shop where the walls are covered in stuffed animals and they sell fashion. But I mean, like it's a very different town than Milwaukee. I like Milwaukee and I choose to live in Milwaukee, but I'd say that I'm glad I lived in Kansas City because it formed me. Because I'd say like, and also like the art school in whatever city you're in influences the whole town. So I'd say if you were going to like the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, that's a very intellectual school. You read a lot of philosophy and critical theory, and I think people spend a little less time in the studio. Whereas like where I went to school in Kansas City, we studied almost no philosophy and critical theory, and we spent almost the entire time in the studio just goofing around like all night, every night. So it was more of like, it had almost more of like a working class philosophy of just like working beyond factory hours to do what you love to do. That's what my freshman year teacher always told me to do is like work beyond factory hours, Anja, and that's all you need to do. Like, I mean, he also suggested a lot of books and stuff, but I just never read them. I just work hard.
That's good. So a couple of things from that. What exactly is experimental painting?
Oh, experimental painting. I mean, like, you know, it's basically at that school, people would say they were a painting major, but they'd end up like doing installations or performance art or like wrapping dead mice in pieces of felt. And I mean, people didn't do that, but like, you know what I mean? like anything goes kind of with painting, but frequently painting would be worked back into it too. Like, you could have an installation and all of a sudden there'd be a glob of paint in the middle of it or whatever. But yeah,
that's cool.
Just not very traditional, I would say. I'd say the essence of the school is not traditional. Yeah.
That's cool. What led you from there to here?
Well, I never thought I would return to Milwaukee when I was 18. I was pretty determined to like end up like in New York or Paris, being a big shot artist, and I was full of ego and eagerness. But as it turned out, I got very, very sick when I was in college. I had a lot of food allergies that got worse and digestive problems. And it got to the point where my senior year of college, I was thinking of dropping out or postponing my education so I could check into some sort of like I needed to go to like some sort of like a live-in place where you could just be ill. I didn't end up doing that, but I really wanted to go to like a nursing home for the food intolerant or something where like they just like feed you broth all day and like you just rest. Like, I had adrenal fatigue, so I was like tired all the time. I mean, like, I was sick as a dog, but after school I ended up somehow landing a job in a puppet theater. Like, and this was like during the recession when everyone was having problems finding a job. Like, my friends were applying for jobs at like Target and getting denied. Like, it was like really, like, you know, it was the worst with the economy. And here I was landing a job at a puppet theater. Like, how the heck did I do that? But then it turned out like I had no creative freedom at the puppet theater, and I was treated like a puppet because I was on the bottom rung of the ladder as far as like the hierarchy of the puppet theater was concerned. And it was just like, no, it's funny. It is funny. It was also very miserable and hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I worked there for almost a year until I finally got to the point where I like tearfully like drafted a resignation note, and like I practiced my words. I practiced it aloud a few times, and then I went into work one day and I was going to go up to the head office and deliver my note, and like the boss lady came up to me and she was like, "All right, Anja, let's talk about your future." So before I even
they were gonna let you go?
Yeah, they were totally like, they were not satisfied with me in any way. But yeah, so then I was unemployed for a while, and I was very sick, and I didn't have the energy to get another job, and my spirit was broken after doing so poorly at my first job ever, pretty much. And like, I just thought I didn't have it in me for a job, like emotionally, physically, anything. And, you know, I just didn't feel like I could keep living on my own. And luckily my parents could take me, and so I moved in with my parents, and I was very depressed about that. And I lived with my parents for 5 years. But it turned out to be exactly what I needed to take care of my body and also get over myself and humble up a bit, and also give me the time to take care of my health and also to experiment without feeling like I have to pay the rent or make ends meet. I was taken care of, so I was allowed complete creative freedom in another way. And by being ill, it was my ticket to really finding my voice as an artist at the time. My voice as an artist changes, and I can't really stick to one thing, or I feel trapped and ornery and I lash at people and I get mean. But if I remember that I need to to take a break, and being ill was wonderful for that. Like, I could just take a break and relax. Like, it's so important to just be lackadaisical and do nothing for long periods of time, and even to feel guilty about it, because we live in, like, this stupid culture where, like, you're supposed to feel guilty if you're not doing anything. Like, it's so important to not do anything, particularly if you're an artist, because you're so sensitive and you're absorbing, and you need periods of absorption, and that's what living at home gave me.
Wow, I feel very connected to that story, because I feel like I'm right in the middle of that. I have a lot of health issues right now that I'm dealing with. I don't know if I want to go over them on the air, but I do have some digestive issues too. I don't know if they're what yours are, because I haven't been like diagnosed exactly with them. Mm-hmm. But I've gotten off a lot of foods and I'm getting a lot better. So I'm guessing that it's the foods that are causing a lot of things. And I'm living with my mom right now, so she's helped me to afford the time to be able to get healthy, which is a godsend. But I'm going to get into the not feeling guilty about taking time for yourself, because that, for me, that's really hard.
Yeah.
How have you managed to get through that?
Well, I review it. You know, I think to myself, I compare myself to other eras with other problems where I didn't think I was going to overcome them. And I think to myself, like, you know, there was a period in my life when I thought I wouldn't ever learn how to ride the bicycle. I was 14 years old and I didn't know how to ride a bicycle. And, like, I didn't trust anyone to teach me, so I had to, like, slowly teach myself in my own embarrassed sort of way, where I started on, like, a toddler bike, which was close to the ground, so if I fell over, I would be okay. But, I mean, like, that might not be a good example of what... It's not, like, a direct answer to your question, but, like, a more direct answer to your question is, like, I still feel guilty all the time, every day as a professional artist, because I'm not out there making the loads of money. I'm out there finding what makes me want to live. And I feel like that is a more important quest for me in my life than, like... But I don't mean to judge others either for choosing a route of money. Like, I'm very privileged in that, like, I am taken care of. Like, I still have someone buying me groceries once a week, even though I pay my own rent. But I think if you're given an opportunity, for goodness sake, take it. Because there's so many people in this world who would like it and don't have it. And if your body is screaming at you to take it easy and take care of yourself, and to absorb things slowly, because digestion's all about absorption, then that's your body's way of saying, it's like, you need to do things very slowly. You need to really consider every move you make, because you have a limited amount of energy, and your energy is precious. You put beautiful things into this world, and you have to really choose what those things are going to be. And if you aren't doing every last thing that you want to be doing, you also have to have faith that, like, the moment will arise when it is time for you to do that. But sometimes you have to have certain life experiences before you have permission from yourself even to do it. And it's hard to even know that that's what you need sometimes. Like, for example, I've always wanted to write and illustrate my own books, but I'm 29 years old, and I've been a professional artist for about 10 years, and I still haven't gotten to the point where I feel like it's time for me to do that. Like, I've experimented with it before, but it didn't feel... I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt like I had other projects I wanted to be working on. And sometimes I feel also like the thing that you want to be working on more than anything else, you don't work on. Perhaps because you have fear of it, or what have you, but you make all these other projects for yourself to do first before the project that you want to do most of all. And that's sort of like illustrating and writing my own books. But I also feel like, especially like with books, it's so, I mean, the whole thing is about content. And every time I've ever tried to write like a novel in the past, I've quit. I've tried to write a memoir, I've quit. And it's because I need to be more involved in the living of life at the moment than in the completion of a thought about life. And that's because I'm young.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've talked a lot about the subject. There are a lot more I could delve into here, but I want to switch the topic a little bit. So what is your definition of art?
My definition of art is a sensory experience that it's an intentional sensory experience that causes you to think or feel something.
Nice. I'm going to go back to asking you about yourself now.
Yeah.
I have a list of questions a mile long, but I'm just going to forget the list right now. Because another question popping up is you talking about how your art keeps changing.
Yeah.
And how you have a hard time identifying as one thing or another thing.
Yeah.
But you found that you have a central hub of improv.
Yeah.
How did you find that central hub?
Instinct. I mean, improv is instinct, and it always comes back to instinct with me. It just is. Like, I'm not a planner. The most planning I do is, like, I'll have a certain sort of performance that I want to do and a certain parameter for a performance. Like, for example, right now I'm planning advice for the Fringe Festival. And so far, the performance is going to consist of about 20 women typing up different types of advice for people at typewriters in a park under a tent. And there will be different types of advice, like good advice, bad advice, nice advice, like spirit world advice, contradictory advice, where two women give you advice together, but they disagree on what you should do. Like, but like, I get in all these kind of intricate planning phases of like what it's going to be, but when it gets carried out, it's always done in one go. I don't repeat anything. I don't put down really sketches or anything. Like when I'm drawing, I just do it. When I cut paper, I just cut it. I don't make plans. I'm much more interested in the wisdom of the moment, of the present moment, than in anything planned. And I think it evens out because there's a lot of people in this world who are really into planning, and I'm here to provide learning how to respond to I think it always goes back to my mom too, because she taught me art when I was a kid. She was like an art teacher. And so I was raised by an art teacher, and she always would take me to the zoo with a sketchbook.
Oh, nice.
And like we'd be sketching the monkeys or something. And I'd start drawing like an uncertain line, and I'd make a few marks, and she'd say, no hairy lines. Draw everything in one stroke because it's the correct stroke. Just trust that each line you make is the correct line. And that's how I think I really learned from that direction that day with the drawing, and I've incorporated it into my whole art and life philosophy of just going with the situation. And I think I'm a little bit of a adrenaline junkie in that I really like spur of the moment decisions and responding instantaneously when there's big risk.
Cool. So big risk, what do you mean by that? Like,
you never know how things are going to go with people. Like, for example, I just created this product on my website. It's a poetry product, but I product is such an ugly word. Like, it's a poetry service. Not that service is really that much of a better word than product, but like
whatever.
I'm calling it Love Potion number 9. And it's like based off of that pop song that's like, it's basically about Love Potion number 9. Some guy like wants to fall in love with someone, so he goes down to Madame Rue, and she's an old gypsy with a gold tattoo, and she mixes him up a little bottle of Love Potion number 9, and he drinks it, and he couldn't tell if it was day or night. He started kissing everything in sight until he kisses the cop, and then he gets in trouble. And that's the story of the song. So I made
Who sang the song?
I think the Clovers. But I made a product, and I collaborated with a professional love coach who I met online.
Wow.
And her whole thing is like she provides a service for single people to help them manifest love when they don't have a mate. Like, she helps them create the situation in themselves to welcome positive, good relationships into their life. So that's what she does for a profession. And she asked me if I would write poems for her clients when she's done working with them to kind of send them off in the magic of finding love. And so that's where Love Potion number 9 comes in, this product I've made. And it's a service where I will ask the customer who's seeking love a few questions like, what are you hoping to get from love? What lessons have you learned in your life that you don't want to repeat? What do you want to give to your partner? That sort of thing. And then I call them up and I have a conversation with them about their philosophy of love and life. And then I write them a poem potion. And I create an affirming poem that is sort of like a prayer or a blessing or a self-fulfilling prophecy. But anyways, no matter what it is, it's potent, it's magical. It's Love Potion number 9. And it will define exactly what that person wants, and it will help it keep perspective in their own minds and bodies of what they want so that they can welcome that into their life and they can find the love that they want. And I forget the larger point I was going to make with this, but
It's been beautiful.
Yeah, but like I just released that today, and well, yeah, but like, you know, that's taking a risk.
Yeah,
It's taking a huge risk. Because then it's like putting me in the same category as like psychic or something. And I'm not a psychic. I'm just like someone who is like really into doing emotional work with people as an artist and helping them to become their best possible selves. And this is not something which I would have offered 10 years ago. Like, I feel like I've really needed 10 years of adulthood to really learn how to understand people and develop more empathy. And I've done a lot of writing for people on the street where they come up to me and like they need love letters or insult letters or letters from their pets. And I've done thousands of them now. And after doing that, now I feel I'm in the place where I can help people open themselves up to romantic love if they don't have it. And that's what I'm offering with this, but it's also a huge risk because, you know, like, what if it doesn't work out? There's always a chance, but it's not, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I say even on my website, like, do not order this unless you're completely prepared to fall in love. Like, you know, like, warning.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah, you say that with a laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Like, how much would you charge for something like that? I'm curious.
It's like $80, which is way undercharging.
It is way undercharging.
Yeah, I should be charging more like $300, honestly. But like, you know, it's always hard living in Milwaukee too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, have to meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, that brings up my second question I have on the list of what do you think an artist is?
An artist is someone who soaks up life, their experience of life, either internal or external life, and they regurgitate it in some form, whether it's literal, abstracted, metaphorical, or accidental. But artists are conduits who can't stop themselves from receiving and creating messages.
Nice. Brings up a whole host of questions for me. So you receive messages and you transmit them.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you transmit them to is the question. The audience. How do you find the right audience for yourself?
Well, first of all, your audience has to be you before anyone else. And once you feel like you have a language for what it is, because I think it takes a really long time of just making art just to understand what it is you're making. And you have to get to the point where you feel limited by yourself in a way before you bring it to other people. Because other people are going to expand you. And this isn't the only way. Like, you can definitely be an artist and make art only for people, too. But I found personally that the first 20 years of my life, I made lots of art every day, all for me. And then it got to the point where my art was getting too narcissistic or boring. It was bored. It needed a stretch. And then I started making art for other people out of a joke, out of offering, I can write you a love letter, I can write you a pet letter, I can write you whatever. But I found that by following the joke, following what I thought was like so completely ridiculous, really resonated with people. And most of all, I would say the most important thing is when finding your audience, you're not looking for an audience, you're looking for fun. How can I have fun doing this? How can I make the best thing I've ever made and have fun doing it? That's what you need to be asking. And then once you've made something that you feel is fun, that is the best thing you've ever made thus far, then you take it and you show people, because you can't help it. You have to share. It's when you have that, you need to share, then that's when you know it's time to share. But until you feel that pride about what you're doing, it's not time to share. And that's a really hard thing to do, too, especially now in our oversharing culture, is like every time you do something, you feel like you have to share it, even if you don't feel good about it. But I think it's a really good idea to feel great about what you're doing and euphoric about what you're doing before you show it with people. Because if you follow your bliss, then you'll have something to show for it, and the people who need to see it will see it. But you also have to be willing to expose yourself. And that's a very hard thing for most artists.
Can you elaborate on the exposing yourself part?
Sure. Well, it's that same stage of euphoria of like, look at what I made. This is great. But then you show it to your friends and your family and they go, oh, this is great, or whatever. But then, you still want to show it to more people because you want to sell it, or you want to, be able to make more, or you want to expand and think wider than what you've done. And you have to reach out to other artists, and you have to reach out to collectors or whoever you're aiming. I mean, every artist has a different thing. Maybe you want to go to art fairs. Maybe you want to be in galleries. Maybe you want to be in magazines. But that process of reaching out is very difficult for a lot of people, but it has to come from the same place as euphoria of like, I love this and I need more people to see it.
Mm-hmm. That euphoria. I feel like sometimes with my art, I got an idea it could be good,
mm-hmm.
and then the art that I'm most afraid of is the art that's good.
Mm.
So for me, there's a little bit of a paradox there. Is you want to share it, but you don't want to share it because it could be good. I don't know. I don't know if I'm there yet.
Yeah, that's okay. I think it's more important that you're just making art and that you're both challenging and comforting yourself at the same time in the process of making art. And just make it and don't analyze it. Just keep going. And when you get to the point where you feel an internal confidence and an internal euphoria and you have a lot to show for it, then you'll have more to review and more to think about it. But until you get there, you can't be hard on yourself when you're in the creation phase.
When you're in the creation phase, I feel like I have a lot of anxiety and fear right now, the phase that I'm in right currently. Do you have anything you can talk about to that?
Sure. I think I've been teaching art a lot to kids, especially at the age where like kids start getting self-conscious about drawing and they're like, oh, I can't draw. Well, I tell them, well, good thing you're not in math class because there's no right or wrong answer here. Like, frankly, I want to see you draw the ugliest drawing I've ever seen. I don't want to see anything beautiful coming from you. If you make something beautiful, I'm going to rip it up. I want you to make me only ugly art today because that's what I want to see. I want to see you having fun. I want to see you making art. I don't want to see anything great. Like, go home if you're going to make a masterpiece. I don't want to see that. Like, just make something, anything. And so frequently when they open themselves up to making something ugly, they make something beautiful. They make something great. They make something that they would have felt was bad before or would be judged. And you just got to turn off that judging part of your brain. You got to do some blind contour drawings. You got to get a big roll of paper, unveil it on the floor, and rough it up with sketches, not knowing what is. I mean, that's why I'm improv. Everything I do feels like blind contour drawing, even if I'm looking at it. Like, every performance is like a blind contour drawing because I don't know where it's going. And that's my passion, is improv. Like, I'm very unattached to results. And that's like another thing which they teach you in art school, or at least the art school I went to, is like, you're on your way when you can spend like 2 weeks on a project, day and night. And if it gets to the point where you get to the end and you're like, I don't like this, you have to be willing to throw it away or get rid of it, because it's not even important what you made. It's important what you experienced while making it, more than anything else.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's another question I like to ask is, what do you think the role of art and artists are in today's society? Because I feel like today's society is more fractured than ever.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I was having this conversation with an activist the other day, in that, like, he was, saying things like he's pessimistic. He thinks that, like, the world is going downhill, like, climate change is going to kill us all, and like there's no point to having groups that just meet and talk about environmental issues, like people need to be doing action now. And then he asked me, Anja, what do you think of all this as a young person? And I told him, I feel very sad. I feel very sad and afraid that, like, both you feel that the world is dying, and I sometimes worry that the world is dying. But I honestly don't know if it's going to die or not. And it's not up to me to decide that. I do the best I can to live environmentally friendly as possible. But in the end, it's not up to me. And I'm not an activist. I am an artist. My role is to support the activists and to support the non-activists. My role as an artist is a societal healer. I'm here to give people a sense of why they're alive in the first place, to give them joy at the beauty and sorrow of life, because even sorrow is a joyful thing. And my job is to respond to life and to show it, to mirror it back at people so that they recognize it and they see that they're not alone. And by seeing that they're not alone, they in turn feel connected, and that connection gives them a feeling that they can make a difference and that they can help each other and that there is a community. Like, I exist as an artist to show people community, to show people internal community. Like, not like literal external community necessarily, but like the community that we are all a part of in our souls. Like, we all relate to the dream world, or we all relate to strange desires for rabbits and cake. And like, if I bring us all in closer to the internal rabbit and cake and to the humor, then people will see in each other the same thing, or at least resonate in those desires. And the problem with a fractured society is people are so lonely. they don't trust each other. They're afraid of each other. And as an artist, especially an artist who works a lot in the community with performance, I feel my role is to create connection.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, how did you get into doing performance art?
Inherently, instinctually, improvisationally. I mean, like, when I go to my parents' house, there's, like, videotapes of me when I'm 4 years old doing performance art at the piano. And it's very performance arty. Like, I'm playing, like, dissonant notes. Like, I don't know how to play the piano, but I'm doing it anyways, and I'm singing songs about the mama bear, the papa bear, the brother bear, the daughter bear. I mean, like, it's very performance arty. Like, I could, like, do that performance in a performance art venue today, and it would fit right in with the dissonant piano. And I don't know, I've just always had that instinct. Like, my favorite thing to do as a kid was to play dress up. So,
how have you kept a hold of that into the adulthood?
Well, I still dress up eccentrically a lot. I was still doing Halloween as a freshman in college. I went trick-or-treating with my dorm mate. I don't know, but, like, I just, because I play to my own rules, I still dress up weird. I still make a lot of jokes, and I just find myself in situations. Like, I just recently started acting in a film because I just can't stay away from it. If someone offers it to me, I jump in it. I just need to be there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What film? Can you say anything?
Sure. I'm performing in a production called, well, here's the thing. There's a movie last year that came out called Tomorrowland, and this movie is also called Tomorrowland, but it might be called something else because there was a big box movie called Tomorrowland, but this is like a movie based off of the poetry of Lisa Samuels, who's a poet living in New Zealand, and New Zealand is this place also known as Tomorrowland because they're on the international date line, so it's always tomorrow there compared to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. But anyways, it's a trans-historical epic poem, and it has sort of a plot, but it sort of also doesn't have a plot, but I'm acting in it, and so I'm excited to do that. It's like directed by Wes Tank, and yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Sounds
cool.
right up your alley.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a question that I don't know if it's a good question or not, but I'm just going to ask it because it just popped in my head.
Yeah.
How do you keep your identity so fluid? Because it feels like right now I've got my identity as a visual artist.
Yeah.
But I feel like called to do words and writing.
Yeah.
So so much of I feel like my identity is wrapped up in visual art.
Yeah.
That it's hard to transition.
Yeah.
To various different things.
Okay, so
that wasn't a good question.
No, it's fine. I think going from one thing to another is a hard thing. Like I'm really trying to get out of doing so much public typewriter stuff and doing more illustration or podcasting or something, anything. But it's hard, especially like when you have like clientele build up or like a kind of like a reputation. You just keep doing it, but it's also on a deeper level, like when you're ready to do something, you'll do it. Mm-hmm. It's like I was a 4-year-old who still drank milk out of a baby bottle. And like, I mean, I'm a late bloomer. I've always been a late bloomer. Like my dad will tell you I'm a late bloomer, but I used to go around everywhere with milk and a baby bottle, and adults would be like, Anja, when are you going to get rid of that baby bottle of milk? Because I was like 4 years old, and I would tell them, when I'm ready to get rid of the baby bottle full of milk, I will do it.
Which is so precocious.
Yeah, and that's the same attitude you have to have with changing art, because it's not different. Like writing and art is the same thing. It's just a different language, but it's still the same instinct. It's still the same thing that you're doing. It's just stupid that we make everything so demarcated.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like that too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm trying not to say but, building up an audience and being known for something,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like, to me, in our society, that's how you're able to survive as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just overthinking things.
It is and it isn't. I think if you want to do something, ultimately, that desire will set you aside more than what you're making.
Mm-hmm.
It always comes down to the intention of the person and the personality of the person. Like, every art that sells is a bit of that artist's personality. And if your personality tells you I need to do more than one thing,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard of puttylike.com?
What?
Puttylike?
No.
You would like that. It's this is an aside.
Yeah.
But it's probably gonna go to the podcast. It's Emily Wapnick. She multi-potentialites. I just joined the Putty Tribe. So it's a group of people that are multi-potential. You know what a multi-potentialite is?
Oh, people who are good at more than one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would like that. You should look into that.
Okay.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Yeah, I know. They opened up membership for a day, and I jumped at the chance to join. I haven't really done much with it yet, but there are a lot of people that are, like, similar to us, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's an online community. Where was I? Oh, okay. Back to the thread of the conversation.
Yeah.
What is the why behind what you do?
What is the why behind what I do? I think the why of what I do is, why am I in this body? Like, why am I not in your body or their body or his body? Like, is this life? Like, I seem to be able to smell and hear things. Sometimes I feel like my head is above my body. Sometimes I feel disconnected from my body. And when I'm in my body, all these things are happening to me. And I'm just trying to make sense of it. It's so surreal. Like, how am I even alive? Life is as strange as dreaming. And I just want to make sense of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are some books that inspire you artistically?
Well, right now I'm reading The Typewriter Revolution, which is all about other typewriter poets and all of the resurgence of people owning typewriters. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, and I also really like,
Who wrote it?
I can't remember the name of the author, but if you look up The Typewriter Revolution, you'll see it. And then I think, like, ultimately, like, perhaps the most important thing I ever read was The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell, which is all about following your bliss and going down your life path. And it just makes you holler with joy. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. So why did you start with the typewriter? I know you're getting more away from it, but what drew you to it initially?
Well, I mean, I'll always come back to it, too. It's a nice clacking physicality. It's different than writing with a pencil where you can erase. It's different than writing with the pen. It's more, like, writing with a pen is more flowing. Writing with a typewriter is similar to a pen in that, like, you can't make mistakes. You can't go back. There's no delete button. But it's sort of like a computer in that, like, everything is final at the same time. It's a risk. It's another risk of the moment thing. It's an improv. Like, typewriter is improv. Like, there's no going back. Every line you draw, every word you say has to be the correct word. And so you have to get really correct in the moment of conducting your manuscript.
Okay, so I noticed here you have a shirt with some Jewish lettering. Are you Jewish?
No, people ask me that all the time.
I'm just curious because, I mean...
Well, actually, I've had this shirt since I was 8 years old. When
Wow.
my grandparents went to Jerusalem and they brought me back this shirt. And somehow I could still fit into it as a 29-year-old.
Yeah, well, the reason why I'm asking that question is because a lot of things seem really spiritual, and I'm technically Jewish, so I mean, I wasn't raised Jewish, but yeah. So I was just wondering if your spiritual background is.
People always think I'm Jewish. Like, I have curly hair, and like I'm very like I love telling stories, and like I'm very expressive, but I'm a quarter Italian, which is Mediterranean, but like I guess, well, technically my dad just did like the DNA thing where you swab a Q-tip in your mouth and you send it off to the lab, and he found out that he's 3% Jewish.
Oh well.
So I am 1.5% Jewish.
Well, it has been your mother's side to count. Really?
Oh. So then I'm not Jewish.
No, because like the Orthodox Jews, like if my mom wasn't Jewish, I would not be considered Jewish to them unless I converted.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. My mom also took the test and she did not come out as Jewish.
What did she come out as?
Neanderthal. As did my dad.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Well, pretty much anyone who has European background is Neanderthal.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So the reason why I was asking, Neanderthal, that is really interesting. The reason why I was asking is because your art seems very spiritual to me, and you seem like a very spiritual person. I was wondering what are your background in that respect.
Well, I was raised Catholic. I'm not Catholic. I'm not Christian, but I'm not atheist. Mm-hmm. I would say like the closest thing that I am is like I'm agnostic.
Oh my god, I'm agnostic too.
Yeah.
First I've met that's like openly agnostic.
Yeah, I'd say I'm agnostic in the mind that like I trust that something is there, but I don't think it's
knowable.
Yeah, I don't think it's like definable with our little human brains, which is why I'm an artist.
Yeah, I feel like I'm similar in that respect too.
Yeah.
Like, the reason why I'm called Shows of Curious Artist is because I believe in living in the question. Mm-hmm. Like, leaning into the discomfort and the not knowing. So.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
I've been agnostic my whole life. I can't really put a line and say, I believe this definitely.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's hard in the society where everyone believes something definitely, it seems like.
I think we live in a pretty agnostic society sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah. But it is a little more rare for people to say that they are agnostic. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Back on track. So we're talking about books earlier and typewriters. I sort of got off that subject randomly. So what are some blogs that you read?
I really like... Sometimes I get like these emails from Dasha Kelly, a local writer, and they just come to the inbox and it's like a little bit of writing. I like following like Adam Carr's Milwaukeeer Than Thou photographs of Milwaukee. I don't know. I blogs per se I don't read. I don't like reading on the computer. Mm-hmm. Like it irritates my eyes, but I don't know. I just like whatever comes along.
Cool. I just thought some people have opinions about that.
Yeah, I don't really.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I should toss that question out. Yeah. How do you stay artistically productive? Stay on task artistically?
Well, before I go to bed, I look at my schedule. I look like a week ahead. I look for this week. I look at tomorrow. And I write down everything which I want to do, and then I divide it into the days that I think would be most logical to get it done. So, like, if I'm going to New Orleans on Thursday, which I am.
Oh, congrats.
Like, then I will think of, like, well, I need to pack, I need to do whatever. And the artistic practice also comes into that. I usually try and do something creative on my to-do list every day. Yeah. I don't know. I make a lot of to-do lists.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm a productivity nerd a little bit,
Uh-huh.
so I feel like productivity is a philosophy or a day, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is a productivity nerd in your mind?
Well, I get into a lot of different productivity systems.
Oh.
Like GTD and other stuff. Getting things done. The
Okay.
David Allen method.
Oh.
I
don't know anything about all this.
Yeah, it's like, for me, productivity is the why behind what you do is more important than what you actually do. So,
I can relate to that. Like, you have to keep busy.
Yeah, it's not about keeping busy. It's about making meaningful progress on the goals that you want to achieve from what the literature I've read is. I read a lot of books and podcasts about it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I just make stuff and then make it happen.
I know, I overthink everything. Yeah. I don't know where we went down that rabbit hole. So it sounds like we're wrapping up a little bit here.
Sure.
Because I've almost run out of my list of questions.
Yeah.
And So where can people find you online if they want to follow you or support you?
Sure. I have 2 websites. I have my visual art website, which is Anja, NotAnja.com. That's ANJANOTANJA.com. And then La Prosette is where you can order a letter from me or a poem, or you can see pictures of me. You can see pictures of my poems and letters that I've written for other people and my adventures. That's LAPROSETTE.com.
No.
And I'm also on Facebook, Anja, NotAnja, Seiger, and La Prosette. And I also have a radio show, which airs on Wednesday mornings on 104.1 FM or riverusradio.com, where you can stream it live or on SoundCloud. And the name of the show is The Subtle Forces.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to backtrack from the last question.
Yeah.
How did you get the name NotAnja? I know you gave it to yourself, but like, what's the inspiration behind that?
It had to do with one time I was writing a book, and I was writing for hours and hours, and then I stopped writing, and then I read back what I wrote, and I didn't even remember writing some passages, but as I wrote, I didn't even remember writing some passages that I was reading, but they were so good, I couldn't believe that they had been written, and I didn't even really remember writing them, and it was as if someone else had written them, even though I had written the whole thing for hours. And I was like, who wrote this? Not Anja. And I feel like when I make art, I'm not Anja, I'm anyone I need to be. Because I'm a very limited, fearful person myself. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That brings me to the last question that I ask all my guests. The name of the podcast is The Curious Artist. What are you artistically curious about right now?
I'm curious about what happens when people who aren't experts suddenly become experts.
What do you mean by that?
That's what I'm doing with my upcoming advice performance. I'm going to have a bunch of people who are not therapists or anything. I want to have them set up like they are therapists, and then people will come up to them and ask them questions like wise people. And it always comes down, as an artist, I'm curious about the potential of the present moment and the potential of situations that's never existed before. I'm curious about what happens when you don't plan something.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you would like to support the Curious Artist Show, please share it with a friend or someone you think would enjoy it. Thanks again. Have a nice day.